I surprised everyone when I revealed secrets that left my family completely shocked. My mom's champagne flute was raised like she was about to bless the whole room, and the dining table was so crowded with platters and elbows that I had to stand half behind a chair just to breathe. Someone had lit one of those cinnamon candles that smell like a craft store exploded, and the heat from the oven kept rolling out in waves every time my aunt opened the door to check on the rolls. My brother, Jordan, was grinning in that smug, easy way he always does when he's got an audience. My dad sat at the head of the table with his hands folded like he was bracing for impact, and my grandma watched everyone with that soft, tired smile that makes you feel guilty for existing too loudly. Mom clinked her glass, and the chatter faded. "Before we eat," she said brightly, "I just want to say how grateful I am for family, for everything we've given each other, for the sacrifices." Her eyes landed on me for a second, and I felt it, like a fingertip pressing into a bruise. "Some of us wouldn't even be here without those sacrifices," she added, still smiling. "So tonight, I hope everyone remembers to be thankful." The silence that followed was polite, but it wasn't warm. It was the kind of silence that's waiting to see whether you'll take the hint and shrink. I didn't plan to ruin dinner. That's the thing I keep circling back to, like if I say it enough, I'll believe I'm not the villain in their version of this story. But in that moment, with my mom's smile tightening and Jordan's eyebrows lifting like "go on, say thank you," I felt something in me go very still. Not calm, more like the part of me that usually scrambles to keep the peace simply clocked out. My fingers slid into my coat pocket and found the folded papers I'd brought even though I'd promised myself I wouldn't. The paper edges were soft for me, handling them too much, like worry can physically wear things down. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. "Actually," I said, and my voice came out low but clear, cutting right through the room. Heads turned. Forks hovered. My mom's smile froze. "Since we're doing gratitude speeches," I continued, my throat tight enough that the words felt like they had to push through, "I think it's time we talk about the sacrifices you made. Specifically the one you've been holding over my head my entire life." Jordan made a sharp, warning sound like I'd stepped too close to a ledge. Dad's eyes flicked to mine, terrified, and I pulled the papers out and set them on the table in front of my plate, right beside the butter dish, right where everyone could see my name printed in black ink under a heading that made my mom's face drain of color. It was last spring when the first crack appeared, and it wasn't even something dramatic. It was boring, administrative, the kind of thing that only becomes life-altering in hindsight. I'd applied for a passport because my best friend was getting married in New Zealand, and I was the maid of honor, and I wanted to do something normal, book a flight, pick a dress, complain about seating charts, without my family turning it into a saga. I ordered my birth certificate online like any adult does, expecting it to be a quick box to tick. The certificate arrived in the mail a week later, and I opened it at my kitchen counter with the same energy you open a utility bill, mildly annoyed and ready to move on. But then I saw it. My mother's name wasn't on it. At first, I thought it was a clerical error or some weird formatting thing. I read it again, closer, like squinting would change the letters. Under Mother was a name I recognized, but didn't register as a problem until my brain caught up. Leanne. My Aunt Leanne. My mom's younger sister. The one who always smelled like vanilla perfume and wore her hair in a messy bun and brought me little gifts when she visited, like she was trying to buy back time. The one who never had kids. The one my mom always called flighty and dramatic and not built for responsibility. The name sat there on the page like it had always belonged there, like the truth didn't care about my confusion. I remember standing perfectly still with the paper in my hands, feeling my stomach drop so hard it was almost like nausea. My first thought was genuinely dumb. Maybe there are two Leannes. Like the universe was going to provide a second Aunt Leanne just to spare me. Then the next thought came, quieter and colder. Why will my mom ever let her sister's name be on my birth certificate? I called my mom, not to accuse her, because I wasn't ready to accuse my whole life. I called her the way you call someone when you think you've made a mistake and you need them to fix it. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual, "I got my birth certificate for the passport, and it has Aunt Leanne's name on it." There was a pause so long I could hear my mom's breathing change. Then she laughed once. Not because it was funny, because she was buying time. "Oh my God," she said, too loud, too bright. "That old thing. Honey, that's complicated. Don't worry about it." "Complicated how?" I asked, and I hated how my voice went small. "Paperwork," she said quickly. "Family stuff. It's nothing you need to stress about." I could have pushed harder, but pushing in my family has always been punished. The dynamic is simple. You accept what you're told, or you become difficult. So I swallowed my questions and said, "Okay," like I was trained to do. But after I hung up, the okay didn't settle. It stayed lodged in my throat. That night, I pulled out every document I had in my apartment. Old school forms, immunization records, the baby book my mom gave me when I moved out. I flipped through it like it might suddenly confess. There were photos of me as a baby, chubby cheeks, drool, my dad holding me with a stiffness that looked less like joy and more like fear dropping me. There were handwritten notes in my mom's neat cursive about first steps and first word. It all looked so normal, so loved. And yet the birth certificate sat on my counter like a single rotten tooth in an otherwise perfect smile. The next day, I drove to my parents' house unannounced. That's not something I do. I don't show up without warning because my mom treats it like an intrusion and my dad gets quiet and tense like he's waiting for a fight. But my body moved on autopilot. I let myself in with the spare key I still had. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and laundry, and the TV was on too loud like always. My mom was in the kitchen, and when she saw me, she flinched like she'd been caught. "I need you to tell me the truth," I said before I could chicken out. Her eyes darted toward the hallway, like she was checking whether anyone could hear. "Not now," she whispered. "Now," I said. My hand was shaking so badly I had to grip the edge of the counter. "Why is Leanne's name on my birth certificate?" My mom pressed her lips together and stared at the sink. "You're making this into something it isn't," she said, the way she always says when something is exactly what it is. I heard my dad's footsteps behind me. He stopped in the doorway, and the look on his face, pale, tight, resigned, told me everything before anyone spoke. It was like watching someone quietly fold a flag. "Dad," I asked, and my voice cracked on the word. He didn't answer. He just looked at my mom, and something passed between them. An old agreement, a shared lie, a decision they'd made decades ago and hoped would never be challenged. My mom finally spoke, voice thin. "We raised you," she said like that was a shield. "We loved you. That's what matters." My throat went dry. "So Leanne is my dad closed his eyes for a second. "Biological mother," he said softly. The kitchen tilted. I had to sit down because my knees went watery like my body couldn't hold my weight anymore. I remember staring at my hands on my lap, like if I focused hard enough, they would still belong to the same person. The room felt too bright, too loud, like every sound was amplified because my brain didn't know what to do with it. My mom was crying now, but it didn't make me feel comforted. It made me feel angry because she was crying like she was the injured one. "Why?" I managed. My mom wiped her face hard, like she could scrub off responsibility. "Leanne was 16, she said, voice rising. 16. She got herself into trouble, and our parents would have. She cut herself off, swallowing whatever she didn't want to name. Shame, punishment, ruin. We took you in," she continued. "We did the right thing." Did I know? I asked, and the question tasted like metal. "No," my mom snapped immediately. "Too fast. Too defensive. Of course not." I looked at my dad. He didn't meet my eyes. And that was when a second crack formed. Not just that I had been lied to, but that the lie had a whole cast. Everyone in the family had a role. Everyone had agreed on the script. And I was the only one reading blank pages. I didn't see Leanne that day. My mom said she wasn't home, which I didn't believe. When I left, I drove around for an hour without knowing where I was going. I ended up in a supermarket parking lot, staring at nothing, trying to breathe like a normal person while my chest felt too tight. I called my best friend and started to tell her, and I couldn't even get the sentence out without sobbing in that ugly, hiccuping way that makes you feel like a child. The following weeks were a blur of rage and grief, and this weird guilt I couldn't explain. Because part of me did love my parents. They did raise me. They were there for scraped knees and school plays, and the time I got pneumonia in year 8 and my dad sat by my bed all night with a bowl of ice chips. But then another part of me would remember all the times my mom called me ungrateful when I set a boundary, all the times she reminded me of everything we've done for you without ever saying what that everything actually was. It made my stomach twist because suddenly those comments weren't just manipulative. Suddenly they were rooted in a secret they'd been hoarding like leverage. Leanne finally contacted me through a text. Just my name and a question. Can we talk? No explanation, no apology in the text itself, like she was too scared to type the words. I stared at it for an hour before replying yes. We met at a quiet cafe near the river. Leanne looked older than I remembered, or maybe I was seeing her without the fun aunt filter. Her hands shook when she lifted her mug. Her eyes were red like she hadn't slept. She kept tucking her hair behind her ear over and over, a nervous tic that made me weirdly sad. "I didn't want this," she said immediately, voice cracking. "I didn't want you to find out like this." "Like what?" I asked, and my voice was sharper than I intended. "Like a typo on a certificate." Leanne flinched. Your mom has always been scared you'd leave," she whispered. "She thought if you knew, you'd hate her." I laughed once hollow. "So, she lied for 27 years. Leanne's eyes filled. "She told me it was better," she said, "that you'd have a normal life. That our parents would never let it go. That she and your dad could give you stability." Histoire de rire. "And what about you?" I asked. "You just gave me away?" Leanne swallowed hard. "I didn't give you away like you were nothing," she said. "I was a kid. I was terrified. They told me I could still see you. They told me I'd be your aunt, and that would be easier. And it was at first, because I could love you without being responsible. And then it wasn't easier anymore because every year you grew up and you looked more like—" She stopped, choking on the sentence. "Like you," I finished flatly. Leanne nodded, tears falling. "I thought about telling you so many times," she said. "I would start the conversation in my head, and then I'd imagine your mom's face and your dad's face and the way everyone would fall apart, and I'd chicken out. I'm so sorry. I didn't forgive her in that cafe. I didn't do a movie scene where we hug and heal. I sat there feeling like my insides had been rearranged. But I did ask questions, the ones that had been haunting me. Who's my biological father? I asked. Leanne's throat worked. I don't know, she admitted, and that hit harder than I expected. It was a boy from school. It was messy. He left town. My parents made me stop talking about it. I was ashamed. Something in me went quiet at that. Not peace. Just the realization that I might never get a neat answer. My origins weren't a story with a satisfying conclusion. They were a panicked decision that everyone taped over and pretended was fine. After that, I tried to exist as normal. I went to work. I laughed at coworker jokes. I bought groceries, but I felt like I was walking around wearing someone else's skin. Every time my mom texted me, I read it twice, hearing the subtext in a way I never had before. Every time my dad called me kiddo, it made my throat tighten because I didn't know if he was calling me that out of love or out of obligation. The worst part was Jordan. Jordan knew. I could feel it in the way he watched me after I found out, like he was waiting to see what I'd do. There was a smugness in his silence that made my teeth ache. When I finally confronted him, when I asked him straight up if he knew, he didn't even bother pretending. He shrugged like it wasn't a big deal. Yeah, he said. Mom told me when I was 16. My vision went white around the edges. Why didn't you tell me? He rolled his eyes. Because you would have made it about you, he said casually, and that sentence still makes my hands shake when I think about it. Besides, it's not like it changes anything. They still raised you. You should be grateful. Grateful. That word again. Like my existence was a favor. Then Jordan asked me for money. I wish I was making that up, but I'm not. 2 weeks after I found out, Jordan called me and said he needed help with a temporary situation. He was behind on rent. He'd invested in something dumb and lost. He needed a couple grand just to catch up. I said no, not because I hate him, but because I was drowning and also because I'm tired of being the family ATM. He exploded. You owe this family, he snapped. Do you know what Mom and Dad did for you? They didn't have to take you in. They could have let Leanne ruin her life with you. That sentence, with you, was the moment something in me truly broke and reformed into something harder. He didn't see me as his sister. He saw me as a debt. And that's when my mom started using her little speeches more openly. The sacrifices line, the thankfulness line. She never said the secret out loud, but she didn't have to. She had a weapon now, and she liked the weight of it in her hand. Which brings me back to this dinner. This crowded, candle-smelling, too-warm room. My mom had invited everyone, grandma, aunts, cousins, because she wanted the performance. She wanted her narrative reinforced by witnesses. And I walked into it already raw, already tired, already carrying the truth like a stone in my pocket. When I set the papers down on the table, my mom's hand shook so hard she sloshed champagne onto the placemat. "Stop," she hissed, eyes flashing. "Don't you dare." Jordan leaned forward, voice low. "You're really going to do this?" he muttered. "In front of Grandma?" I looked at my grandma. She was staring at me with confusion and worry, her mouth slightly open. My heart clenched because the last thing I wanted was to hurt her. But then I thought about all the times my mom used family as a shield while she cut me. All the times she chose public humiliation over private honesty. She made this a stage long before I did. "I'm not doing this to Grandma," I said, voice steadying. "I'm doing this because you all keep using me like I don't deserve the truth about my own life." My dad finally spoke, voice thin. "Honey, please. Don't." I cut in, and my voice cracked, but I kept going. "Don't honey me right now. I've spent weeks trying to hold this quietly, trying to not blow anything up, and you've all been acting like I'm supposed to swallow it and smile." My mom snapped. "We gave you a life, and you took my choice." I shot back. "You took my right to know. And you've been holding it over my head like I should bow every time you remind me." There were murmurs around the table. My aunt whispering, my cousin shifting in their chair, someone breathing too loudly. My grandma's hands were trembling in her lap. I took a breath and slid one paper toward the middle of the table so people could see the heading. "This is my birth certificate," I said. "And if anyone here is confused about why I'm upset, it lists Leanne as my mother." Silence hit like a wall. My Aunt Karen's mouth fell open. "Leanne?" she whispered, and then her eyes darted to my mom like she was trying to confirm whether she'd heard wrong. My mom's face had gone rigid, like she put on a mask so hard it might crack. "This is private," she said through her teeth. "You're exposing family business." "I'm exposing my life," I said. My grandma's voice came out small, shaky. What does that mean?" she asked, looking between me and my mom like she couldn't find the right version of reality. My dad stood up too fast, chair scraping. "Mom, it's—" My mom cut him off. "Don't," she snapped, and it was the first time I'd ever heard her sound genuinely afraid. Leanne wasn't supposed to be there. She doesn't come to most family dinners because she works late, or has plans, or isn't feeling well. I thought she was keeping distance because she couldn't look at me without guilt. But then the front door opened quietly, and I heard footsteps in the hallway. Leanne appeared in the doorway to the dining room, eyes wide, face pale. She looked like she'd been crying. She looked at me first, then at my mom, and something in her expression hardened like she'd finally had enough of being the family's hidden problem. "I told you this would happen," Leanne said, voice shaking but loud enough that everyone heard. "I told you secrets don't stay buried forever." My mom spun toward her like a cornered animal. "Why are you here?" she hissed. Leanne swallowed. "Because I'm done letting you make her feel like she owes you for existing," she said, and the room went so still it felt like even the candles stopped flickering. Jordan scoffed, trying to regain control. "Oh my God," he said. "Now you want to play mom?" Leanne's eyes snapped to him. "Don't," she warned, and I'd never heard her sound like that. Sharp, protective, not the airy aunt who brings gifts and jokes. "Don't talk about her like she's a burden. You have no idea what it cost her to live in a house where everyone knew something about her, except her." My grandma made a soft, distressed sound. "You all knew?" she whispered. No one answered immediately. That was the loudest confession of all. My dad sat back down slowly, like he'd been punched. My mom looked like she might actually throw up. My Aunt Karen started crying silently. Someone muttered, "Jesus Christ." I felt like my heart was trying to climb out of my throat. "Yes," I said quietly to my grandma, because she deserved the truth even if it hurt. They knew. Jordan knew. Mom and Dad knew. Leanne knew. And I didn't. My grandma's eyes filled, and for a second, I thought she'd be angry at me for saying it out loud. But she just looked sad, betrayed, like she was realizing her family wasn't as safe as she thought. My mom finally found her voice, and it came out like a plea wrapped in anger. "We did what we had to do," she said. "We protected everyone. We protected you." "No," I said, and my hand was shaking so hard I had to press them flat on the table. "You protected yourselves. You protected your image. You protected the story where you're the hero and I'm the grateful project." Jordan leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "So what?" he said. "You want applause? You want everyone to feel sorry for you?" I looked at him, and I was surprised by how little fear I felt in that moment. Mostly I felt tired. "I want you to stop using it," I said. "I want you to stop treating me like a debt you can collect." My mom's voice rose, frantic. "You're blowing up the family over paperwork. Over 27 years of lying." I snapped, and my voice cracked on a last word. "Over you making comments about sacrifices every time I don't do what you want. Over you letting Jordan hold it over my head. Over Dad sitting there letting it happen because it was easier than dealing with you." My dad flinched, eyes wet. "That's not." "It is," I said, softer now because the anger was burning out, and underneath it was grief. "I've been trying to understand who I am, and every time I take a step, you all act like I'm hurting you by asking questions." Leanne moved closer to the table, hands clenched at her sides. "She deserved to know," she said to my mom, voice breaking. "She deserved to know it wasn't her fault. She deserved to know I wanted her." My mom's face twisted. "Don't you dare," she whispered, voice venomous. "You don't get to rewrite history now." Leanne's eyes shone with tears. "I'm not rewriting," she said. "I'm finally telling it." The rest of the dinner didn't continue. There wasn't some neat resolution where everyone hugs. People got up in awkward waves. My aunt tried to shepherd my grandma into the living room so she could sit down and breathe. My cousin whispered, "I'm so sorry," to me on her way out, eyes wide like she'd walked into a different universe. My dad stood in the kitchen, staring at the sink like it held answers. Jordan stormed outside and slammed the back door, and I heard him swearing into his phone, already spinning it into a story where I'm the unstable one who ruined everything. My mom cornered me by the hallway later, voice low and shaking with fury. "You humiliated me," she hissed. "Do you understand what you've done?" "You still the hair." My chest hurt. My eyes burned. "You humiliated me for years," I said quietly. "Just privately, so nobody could call you out." Her eyes flashed. "After everything Stop," I said, and my voice was small but steady. "Stop making my life a bill you hand me whenever you want control." She looked like she wanted to slap me. Instead, she whispered, "You're ungrateful." And maybe the old version of me would have collapsed at that. But the version of me who had stared at a birth certificate and felt the floor fall away didn't flinch. I just said, "I'm not ungrateful. I'm free." Leah met me outside by my car. The air was cold enough to make my lungs sting. She hugged herself like she was trying to hold her body together. "I'm sorry," she said again, voice hoarse. "I'm so sorry." I didn't know what to do with her apology. Part of me wanted to scream at her for being absent. Part of me wanted to cling to her because she was the only person in this mess who looked at me like I wasn't a burden. My feelings were jagged and contradictory and exhausting. "I don't know what I want from you," I admitted. "I don't know if I can do this. Be your anything." Leah nodded, tears spilling. "I understand," she whispered. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." I always should have been. I drove home shaking. Not triumphant. Not relieved in the clean way people imagine when secrets come out. I felt scraped raw. I sat in my apartment in the dark with my shoes still on, staring at my hands again like they might tell me who I belonged to. My phone buzzed with text from Jordan, angry, long, accusing. Then a message from my dad. "I'm sorry. I should have told you. I love you." Then nothing from my mom. Over the next few days, the fallout hit in waves. Family group chats went silent, then restarted without me. My Aunt Karen called and cried and said she didn't know what to do. My grandma called once, voice small, and asked me, "Are you still my granddaughter?" And I had to sit on my kitchen floor to answer because it hurt so much. "Yes," I told her, crying in my sleeve. "I'm still me. I'm still yours. My mom didn't reach out for 2 weeks. When she finally did, it wasn't an apology. It was a message that said, "You need therapy." Like my reaction to being lied to was the real problem. And I won't pretend I'm okay. I'm not. Some days I wake up and forget for half a second, and then the truth drops back onto my chest like a weight. Some days I feel guilty, like I should have kept it quiet to protect my grandma, like I should have accepted the lie because my parents meant well. Other days I feel furious all over again because I can see now how the lie seeped into everything. Why I was always expected to be easy, why my mom reacted like betrayal every time I asserted myself, why Jordan felt entitled to use me like a resource. But something did change the night I spoke up. Not my family becoming suddenly healthy, no, but me. Because for the first time, I stopped swallowing the truth to keep them comfortable. I stopped being the person who manages everyone else's feelings at the expense of my own sanity. I don't know what the future looks like. I'm talking to Leanne in small doses. Sometimes we just sit in silence on a park bench, and she tells me about her life like she's trying to offer me pieces of myself. My dad keeps texting, trying to bridge something he helped break. My mom is still angry, and honestly, that might take years, or it might never change. Jordan is playing victim loudly, which is exactly what I expected. But here's what I do know. I didn't reveal the secret because I wanted to punish them. I revealed it because I was tired of living inside a story everyone else wrote for me. I was tired of being told to be grateful for a lie. I was tired of being used financially, emotionally, socially because they thought the truth made me permanently indebted. If you're reading this and thinking, why would you drop that at a family dinner? Trust me, I've asked myself it 1,000 times. But they chose that stage when they decided to make gratitude a weapon. They chose that moment when they looked at me across a table full of food and family and tried to remind me I should be small. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just told the truth. And for the first time in my life, the room finally had to see me.